Anna was an only child in her family, not very rich, but well-to-do. Her mother had worked all her life in trade as a regular salesman, and her father worked all day long as a taxi driver, ferrying passengers by bus. Parents tried to do everything possible so that Anna did not need anything. The girl always made her parents happy. She was a diligent student and an activist. From teachers, they heard only gratitude for the upbringing and praise for a diligent and good student. Graduating from high school, the girl went to college and a few years later received an accounting degree. After graduation, she got a job in a bank where she proved herself in practice. Anna was very pleased with the management, a quiet and modest employee. She was an excellent worker who was absorbed in her duties from the first day. She was very good at finding common ground, even with conflicting clients. She was always willing to replace sick female employees, agreeing to go out on their shifts. Everyone in the team also treated the newcomer very well and were always willing to help her. One day, colleague decided to spend her birthday in a cafe. She invited everyone to celebrate her 18th birthday after work. Despite her passport number of 32, there were a lot of young people in the cafe that night. At one of the slow songs, a tall young man with beautiful blue eyes asked Anna to dance. He very gallantly courted the girl that evening, telling her about his goals in life. And the goals were great. He promised that he would definitely be rich, and it did not matter what methods he used. Perhaps with this, he won the trust of the young lady, and she was literally won over by Anthony at the end of the evening. A few months later, they got married. Despite the resistance of Anna's parents, Mom and Dad were adamantly against the young man, who had achieved nothing in life, with glowing eyes and a lot of ambition. The young couple registered their marriage quietly, without loud celebrations, in a small circle of friends. The girl's parents were not present at the wedding because they didn't accept the groom, and her future husband's parents never showed up in his life, supposedly offended by their son's departure for another city. Anna never saw or heard from them and did not even know where they lived. Her husband flatly refused to talk about the subject. After the wedding, the girl continued to work at the bank. Her husband only sat on the internet for 24 hours, explaining this by the need to find business options. Anna really wanted to have a baby, but Anthony always put a stop on such conversations, explaining that she should first get on her feet and then to think about children. But how to get on her feet if all the income in the family consisted of Anna's salary and sometimes little help from parents? One day when Anna came home tired, Anthony met her with burning eyes and said, "Baby, you have no idea how rich we're going to be. I've thought of everything. Tomorrow you have to apply to a loan. You definitely will not be refused. And then, in 6 months, we'll be the richest family in town." Anna could not refuse her lover, and believing in his plans, the next day she wrote an application for a long-term loan. The best employee of the bank could not refuse, and the management immediately accepted the application. The husband came to get the amount applied for, explaining that it was not worth leaving them at work. After taking the money, he went home, but he didn't get it. A terrible thing happened. For unknown reasons, the car was in a ditch, engulfed in flames. The strangest thing was that it happened in a completely different place, not on the road leading from the bank to the house. The highway was deserted, and there were no witnesses to the accident. Long investigative measures did not help to figure out what caused the fire of a quite normal car. The car caught fire in a couple of minutes and burned to the ground. At the same time, there was no sign of trouble. The car was in a good working order, and the weather conditions were perfect. The cause of the accident was never identified, and Anna became a young widow. The most frightening thing in the situation was the loan that she had left with the bank after her husband's death. Anthony had left with the loan he received for his wife, but the bag with the money, or rather, even remnants resembling it, were not at the accident site. Where the money had gone was unclear. No money was found in the car. The husband did not conduct any transactions with the accounts. In the end, having taken out a loan on herself, Anna had to pay it off. Deciding to get out of banking bondage as quickly as possible, the girl sold the apartment in the city, which she had inherited from her grandmother, and, having paid most of the debt, bought a small, very old house nearby village with the remainder of the money. She wanted to run away from compassionate looks, from acquaintances, from a place where her unsuccessful family life had ended so sadly, and even from the grave of her husband, who had left her alone. Anna decided to start from scratch, changing her place of residence. She found a job in the nearest town, in the local bank, and gladly took an excellent specialist, So Anna started to take a shuttle bus every day from the village to the city to work and back in the evening. She liked living in a small village near a beautiful forest with mushrooms and berries. In the morning, she woke up to the singing of birds and was glad that she had settled here. The house was very old and abandoned, and apparently stood for many years without owners, probably for that reason, and the price was a penny. To put it in order even a week was not realistic, so the girl did it gradually, a little at night, and on weekends every day. First she scrubbed the little kitchen and the little room next to it, at least to have something to eat and sleep in. She scrubbed the windows to shine, freshened the door and window sills with the paint she'd bought, hung curtains, and made the house feel cozy. The furniture in the house was very old, but still quite usable. There was still a lot of work to do, to clear away the piles of junk and put things in order in two remaining rooms, and free up a small closet for a dressing room. So Anna decided to adopt a small room without windows, but with shelves. No one rushed her, and she knew that gradually she would clean up everywhere, and the house would become warm and bright. One morning on her way to work, she heard a pitiful whimper somewhere under the porch. When she looked in, she saw a little black and white lump. Looking at her frightened, with eyes full of tears, the puppy was trembling and whimpering. "You're my good one," the girl said, lifting the baby into her arms. "How did you get here, Poor? You must be hungry." She returned home, poured the spotted foundling some milk, and continued, "Well, I'm off to work, so don't make a fuss. I'll be back to get acquainted." She stroked the baby on his fluffy head and ran to the bus. Arriving in the evening, she was greeted with the threshold with cheerful barking and joyful wagging of the tail. The settled doggy showed his delight at the arrival of his mistress. Now Anna happily ran home after work, because she was always met by her faithful friend. From that day on, Anna was well guarded. The loyal dog was ready to tear apart anyone who took even a step towards his mistress. After a while, Pooh, as Anna called him, turned from a small puppy into a huge dog, capable of knocking down any enemy. But thank God there were no such dogs in their neighborhood. But a reliable guard was not out of place for a fragile, lonely girl, and life together with a dog was a lot more fun. Before the appearance of Pooh, the girl often mentally returned to her terrible past, remembering the dead husband, the insane debt to the bank, the sold apartment. Now when the dog appeared, she began to play with it all her free time and go with him into the woods. On one such walk, Pooh took off his seat and ran to meet a man walking along the path. "Pooh, can't! Pooh, come back!" shouted the girl, afraid the dog would pounce on the man. Anna ran after, hoping to be able to stop the dog in time. But Pooh, running up to the man from a formidable protector, turned into a pliable calf and began to rub his outstretched hand. "Oh, you, missing," the boy said affectionately. "That's how you grown up. Clever boy." It turned out that his dog, Gerda, had once given birth to puppies, and one of them was lost. Pooh was the lost one. The young man was slightly older than Anna. His name was John, and he was a local forester. They wandered through the woods for a long time, talking about different things. The girl really liked the tall, handsome young man, and Anna was clearly sympathetic to him. The young people began to meet often and wander with Pooh and Gerda through the forest. On another day off, Anna set about cleaning her next room. She threw out the pile of old, unnecessary junk from the cabinets and pulled out the drawer of the desk in the center of the room. As she dumped all the contents onto the table, she cried out and covered her face with her hands. From one of the pictures that fell out, the dead Anthony was looking at her. The man was smiling happily and holding a beautiful, slender blonde by the waist. Both their faces lit up with happiness, but it was the date in the lower corner of the photo that killed Anna. The picture was taken a couple of months after she buried her husband. It turned out that the husband resurrected to be happily photographed with this lush blonde. Anna quickly found the phone number of the agent handling the sale of this house. At her request, he gave the number of the hut's former owner. William, the owner who sold the house, immediately remembered that shortly before the deal, it had actually been rented by a beautiful couple. Anna began begging to find the contact information of the young man who had asked for the rent. The number, of course, the husband had changed, but Anna knew for sure it was him. Changing her voice, she called the deceiver the same day, and, ostensibly, as an outsider, stated that she knew of his machinations. Anthony, after a moment of silence, asked what she wanted in exchange for her silence. The girl demanded money. They agreed to meet, and Anna, having written a police report about the scammer in advance, went to the meeting, bringing a tape recorder. Seeing Anna, her ex-husband was very surprised, although their meeting could have happened much earlier if she had stayed in their apartment. After all, Anthony moved literally next door to the very blonde with the photo. It was she who gave him idea to set up Anna and steal a lot of money to set up an accident. In the car, put some local homeless man who fit the parameters and put him on the arm of Anthony's engagement ring with the engravings. It was from this ring that Anna identified remains. The couple set the car on fire and pushed it off the road, realizing that they needed to wait it out for a while. They rented the cabin, having fun, and being glad that they had fooled the naive fool of a wife. You do realize that now I have to finish you off. We won't let you ruin the plan so ingeniously thought out, and nothing can stop me. A place had been suggested for them to meet, so Anthony had thought it over well. It was the farthest corner of half-abandoned park. Even stray dogs rarely run here. Anthony just pulled out the small gun, as both of his hands were grabbed and slammed behind his back. It all happened so fast that he didn't even have time to think. The police officer arrived just in time to save Anna from a certain death. The girl gave the investigators the tape recorder. The husband and his accomplice were detained. Anthony was added to his whole scam with an assassination attempt. Now he definitely won't need the money for a long time, just like his girlfriend. Anna stayed to live in the house, which she had already dismantled to the end, put in order, and created comfort. John helped to fix the sagging porch and patch the roof. He now often helped Anna, if necessary. The rest of the loan debt was paid off with the money confiscated from Anthony. The girl continued to work at the bank. In the evenings at the bus stop, a tall man with two huge dogs was often seen greeting Anna from work. John began to court the girl, and a warm, romantic relationship began to develop between them. Anna hardly remembers her nightmarish past anymore.